The detective sitting across of me pushed the record button on the voice recorder and said sternly, "Mr. Murphy, you are under arrest for the murder of Jessica Murphy. The evidence collected at the crime scene links you to this gruesome murder." He laid crime scene photographs on the table in front of me, prompting me to tear up. The detective continued, "DNA found on the victim is yours. She was tied to a chair and was found beaten to death. Now please state your full name and start from the beginning. How did she die, and why?" "My name is Stephen Murphy. I am a single father of one child, my daughter Jessica. I didn't kill my child," I said. Life with Jessica was a cherished and joyous time for me. We would spend evenings playing board games, sharing laughter, and discussing her dreams and aspirations. I treasured every moment we shared, watching her grow into a remarkable young woman. Our bond was unbreakable, and I was immensely proud of the compassionate, intelligent, and talented person she was becoming. She had a passion for music and would often fill our home with the beautiful melodies of her piano playing. Her smile was infectious, and her laughter brought warmth to even the coldest of days. Those memories of our blissful days together haunt me, a constant reminder of the tragedy that had befallen our lives. Now she is dead, and you think I killed her." I looked at the detective's serious face. The interrogation room was cold and dimly lit. My hands trembled uncontrollably. Sweat dripped down my forehead, and my heart pounded against my chest like a captive beast desperate for freedom. Detective Johnson's eyes seemed to bore into my soul. "All right, Mr. Murphy, tell me why you killed your daughter." I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts, and began to recount the horrifying events that led to this nightmare. "I didn't kill her," I repeated, "but I know it's difficult to believe it." My voice quivered. My daughter, Jessica, was a normal, everyday American girl. She had friends, went to school, and loved playing the piano, but things changed. It was like a dark cloud had settled over her, twisting her once sweet nature into something sinister. I paused, a shiver running down my spine as I recalled the first signs of her transformation. She suddenly started wearing all black clothes, colored her hair black, and wore weird makeup. I just thought it was a phase or some fashion trend. But then she stopped going to church with me. I'm not a religious nut, so I didn't push it much, though I expressed that I missed her at Sunday masses. She just shrugged it off. But then Jessica became increasingly aggressive, lashing out at her friends and even her teachers. She picked fights at school and was suspended a few times. She acted bizarrely, too. At some point, I thought she snuck boys into her room because I could clearly hear a guy talking with her in her bedroom. This angered me. No boys overnight was one of the few rules I tried to impose while she lived under my roof. I would hear the male voice, but I could never find proof. "Maybe you imagined it," Detective Johnson suggested. "No, I didn't. I once caught her talking to someone in the middle of the day in the living room. It was the same male voice, and I heard it as I was entering my house. But when I reached the living room, which took less than a half a minute, only Jessica was in the room. No TV or radio was on. At the time, I thought it was one of her friends, who perhaps went to the bathroom, so I waved a hi and went to my bathroom to shower." Detective Johnson leaned forward, his gaze intense. "Can you give me some examples of her bizarre behavior?" I nodded, my throat dry as I continued. She would wake up screaming in the middle of the night, her body writhing in bed as if tormented by some unseen force. If she got angry about something, objects would fly across the room, seemingly propelled by an unseen hand. And the voices, oh God, the voices. There were muffled voices echoing through her at times. She would speak in tongues I couldn't understand. The detective's eyes narrowed, skepticism etched on his face. Voices? What kind of voices? I hesitated, aware of how this would sound. Whispers from the abyss, detective, haunting, otherworldly, guttural whispers. I thought I was losing my mind, but deep down I knew something more sinister was at play. Silence enveloped the room as Detective Johnson absorbed my words. Finally he spoke, his voice laced with doubt. "You mentioned something about believing your daughter was demon-possessed. Is this why you came to that conclusion?" Tears welled up in my eyes as I delved into the terrifying depths of my reasoning. "Yes. One night I found her levitating above her bed, her body contorted in unnatural ways. Her eyes glowed with an unholy light, and her voice took on a guttural, inhuman tone. I saw her, or rather what had taken hold of her. It was a presence so evil, detective, that I can hardly describe it. That's when I knew, without a shred of doubt, that my daughter was possessed by a demon. Detective Johnson's face remained impassive. And what did you do then, Mr. Murphy? The memories flooded back, each detail etched into my mind like a grotesque painting. I sought help, detective. I contacted a priest, a man of faith who had experience with exorcisms. Unfortunately, he doesn't live in the United States, so he had to provide me with detailed instructions via email. He also helped me during the exorcism. I live-streamed it over Zoom. I performed the ritual, battling the darkness that had consumed Jessica's soul to the best of my ability. My voice quivered, grief weighing heavily upon my heart. But I failed. The demon was too powerful, too insidious. It fought back, and in the chaos, tragedy struck. Jessica, she didn't survive the ordeal. Detective Johnson's eyes widened, a mix of disbelief and curiosity glimmering within them. So you're telling me that your daughter died during this exorcism and that there's a witness outside the country? I nodded, tears streaming down my face, mingling with the sweat. Yes, detective. As the exorcism intensified, Jessica's body convulsed violently. She screamed. Her screams reverberated with a demonic echo. The unseen forces beat her. They threw her against the wall. They scratched her. They beat me too. I pulled up my sleeves to show bruises and scratches. The demons didn't allow me to approach her. Finally, they strangled her with the rope I tied her with. And in an instant, it was over. She lay lifeless before me, her eyes vacant, her body marked with the scars of a supernatural battle. Detective Johnson leaned back in his chair, a heavy sigh escaping his lips. This is unusual, Mr. Murphy. I've dealt with many murder cases, but I've never come across one involving demonic possession. How do you expect me to explain your story? I understood his skepticism. The very notion of demonic possession clashed with the rationality of the world we live in, but the horrors I had witnessed were undeniably real, etched into my soul. I don't expect you to understand, detective, I said, my voice trembling with a mix of sadness and desperation. But I implore you to investigate further. Look into the witness, the evidence, the unexplainable phenomena surrounding my daughter's transformation. There's a darkness at work here. I didn't kill my child. Detective Johnson sighed again, his gaze fixed on me. I'll do my best, Mr. Murphy, but I can't make any promises. We have to follow the evidence and the facts. And so far, the evidence points to you as the prime suspect. How do I contact this priest? I slumped back in my chair, my heart sinking. Despite the weight of my innocence, I knew the road ahead would be treacherous. The darkness that had consumed my daughter now threatened to consume me as well, shrouding me in an unjust shadow of guilt. I gave Father Pablo's full name and told the detective that his email and phone number are saved on my phone. A surge of hope swelled within me as I remembered the witness, Father Pablo, who could potentially provide further evidence to support my claims. I looked at Detective Johnson, my voice filled with urgency. They sought to prevent us from documenting their presence. Be prepared for potential obstacles and interference as you try to contact Father Pablo and retrieve the recording of the Zoom session. Detective Johnson's brow furrowed. A mix of concern, disbelief, and determination etched on his face. I will proceed with caution, Mr. Murphy. Rest assured, I'll do everything in my power to uncover the truth and ensure justice is served. He then motioned for the guard to take me back to my cell. I can feel a frigid breeze against my skin, sending a shiver down my spine. I know that the supernatural forces that had taken my daughter are not yet done with their malevolent game. I still hear their whispers. They whisper horrible words, words that speak of despair, of the futility of my fight for innocence. As I stare into the abyss of my cell, I can't shake the nagging fear that justice will elude me, that the forces of darkness would triumph over the frailty of human understanding.